to Jurassic. Oh my gosh, what is that? Seriously, who let Cheliacs around the dinosaurs? This was a bad idea. Today, we're going to talk about the Thruneosaurus Rex from Howl of the Wild on today's episode of The Local Disaster Tour Guide. Hello travelers and tourists, my name is Mark and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller that genuinely wants to know who came up with today's creature. I couldn't find an author or artist credit, but man is this thing cool, and I respect the mad mind that came up with this. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder, and welcome to the first episode of an experimental series that I'm doing called Creature Feature, highlighting some of the interesting monsters, creatures, or other antagonists that you can face in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. For each episode in this series, I'm going to highlight a particular creature that I find particularly interesting and that I think could be a lot of fun to drop into a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game. I'm going to talk about its design, some of the abilities that the creature has, and talk a little bit about how a storyteller might use this creature in a game, while also highlighting any interesting tidbits of lore that Paizo has dropped about these creatures. For the first few episodes of the Creature Feature series, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the interesting creatures that were dropped in Howl of the Wild, but should this series prove popular, I do intend to expand it to cover the monster core and the setting books that come out and maybe interesting creatures that show up in adventure paths, different things like that. My goal is to highlight some of the interesting foes you can face in this game, so I certainly want to expand just beyond the book Howl of the Wild itself. Now, as I've noted, this is a bit of an experimental series for me. I've been toying with doing some monster-themed videos for a while now, so I definitely want to know what you think. So for the first video in this series, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Thruneosaurus Rex, which is found on page 139 of Howl of the Wild. The pitch for this creature is very simple. What happens when you mix the iconic Tyrannosaurus Rex with diabolical magic? The answer is this terrifying thing. So today we're going to talk about what the Thruneosaurus Rex is, we're going to talk a little bit about what the Thruneosaurus Rex can do, and in the final part of this video, I'm going to have a segment called I Want One. Because one thing that every storyteller knows about interesting creatures in a TTRPG is you're going to have at least one player at the table who sees this abomination and says, I want one. So at the end of this discussion, I will also highlight a few options for player characters who want to adopt their very own Thruneosaurus Rex, and how you might be able to portray that mechanically. Now, as I noted, this is an experimental series. I've been thinking about doing some videos highlighting different monsters in the game for a while, and I think I finally settled on an approach that I like, but I definitely want to hear your feedback. So if you enjoy this video, please be sure to let me know. Jump down to the comments section, leave your feedback. If you have suggestions on how to improve this series going forward, by all means, I am open to those suggestions. And if you have ideas for interesting creatures you would like to see featured in this series, definitely drop that in the comments section as well. Don't forget to do all the other YouTube stuff that helps us support the channel. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can check out my free Discord and my Patreon. All of that will be linked in the video description below. And once Archives of Nethys is updated to include Howl of the Wild creatures, I will also try to throw a link to the Thruneosaurus Rex into the video description so that you can go check it out there. But with all of that out of the way, let's get started. When it comes to the lore surrounding the Thruneosaurus Rex, we're only given about one paragraph in the book Howl of the Wild. Essentially, we are told that some Diabolists from the nation of Cheliax traveled to Mediogalti Island and found or possibly stole some Tyrannosaurus Rex eggs, brought them back to Cheliax, and injected them with devil ichor, with the intention being of raising the resulting creatures as some sort of fiendish servitor that they could use in their schemes. Howl of the Wild also notes that these experiments went terribly wrong and no one's sure exactly how. I think I have a theory. Ultimately, a small number of these creatures escaped and are known to use the Whisper Wood as a hunting ground, though as we shall see in a moment, we definitely cannot limit their location to just the Whisper Wood, unfortunately. I think the narrative uses of diabolical T-Rex are pretty obvious here, and if you're a storyteller who wants to drop one of these into a game, the use case for this is very obvious. Option number one is one of these creatures is rampaging through an area and the player characters need to go stop it. And option number two is some villain has decided to create one of these things and is trying to control it, which can totally lead to an option number one scenario down the road. If you want to unleash your very own fire-breathing, implacable death lizard upon your players, the Thruneosaurus Rex is for you. The relatively low amount of lore attached to these creatures really makes it easy to drop them into almost any setting, however you may see fit. But let's go ahead and talk about what these creatures actually do. Now, for the sake of players in the audience, I'm not going to be going into all of the stats of the Thruneosaurus Rex. I'm going to be talking about some of the abilities that the creature has, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how many hit points or armor class or anything like that, because if your game master drops one of these in the game, I still want you to have the joy of discovering exactly how dangerous this creature can be. Still, with all that being said, I will be diving into some of the mechanics surrounding the Thruneosaurus Rex, so if you're a player watching this video and you want to maintain as much surprise as possible, I do have some timestamps in the video description, and I would encourage you to jump ahead to the I Want One section if you want a little bit more of the player-focused side of the conversation. Alright, so big picture first, let's talk about the Thruneosaurus Rex in terms of its mechanical traits. The Thruneosaurus Rex is a 17th level creature with the following traits: Rare, Gargantuan, Beast, Devil, Dinosaur, and Unholy. So, storytellers, if your party has a champion who's just always wanted to hunt a Devil T-Rex, then this is a custom fit for you. In terms of the ability package you can expect with the Thruneosaurus Rex, it's going to come with some fairly predictable abilities. Obviously, this creature is going to be immune to fire, and it's going to come with some of the standard abilities you expect to see when fighting a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a similar creature. In particular, it's going to have both Trample and Swallow Whole. None of these abilities are particularly surprising, and these are things that your players would likely prepare for if they know a creature like this is coming, but there are a few surprises that Paizo has included with the Thruneosaurus Rex. The next ability worth noting is the Thruneosaurus Rex has Frightful Presence, which it definitely should. Seriously, this thing is terrifying and I love it. The Thruneosaurus Rex is also going to come with two additional noteworthy abilities that make for a very fun encounter. The first one is called Instinctive Teleportation, and this is a reaction that triggers whenever the Thruneosaurus Rex would take holy damage. This is a pretty simple reaction. It just allows the Thruneosaurus Rex to teleport up to 60 feet, and it does include a note that if the Thruneosaurus Rex has swallowed a creature, that any creature they've swallowed teleports with them. I feel like that's probably obvious, but they probably needed that line just for the argumentative PC that might pop up. But other than that, it is a very simple ability. If the Thruneosaurus Rex takes holy damage, they can teleport 60 feet in any direction. Now, the cool part about this is there are no restrictions beyond the teleportation distance, meaning that this can both be a defensive escape mechanism for the Thruneosaurus Rex, or alternatively, a way for the Thruneosaurus Rex to close the distance with someone that is peppering it with holy energy from a distance. If you have, say, a divine spellcaster who is blasting the Thruneosaurus Rex with holy power from a distance, they may suddenly find themselves face to face with an angry devil dinosaur that's just about to eat them, and I think this is hilarious. The other fun and quite flexible ability that the Thruneosaurus Rex can take advantage of is called Hellfire Blast. As you can see in the illustration, the Thruneosaurus Rex can channel fiery energy between its horns, and it can use this blast as a 2-action activity to produce one of 3 results. It can create a blistering sun, creating a radius of persistent fire damage around the creature. It can blast out a cone of choking fumes, dealing poison damage to any targets caught in the blast, or it can create a fiery beam, a 120-foot line of fire that scorches everything in its wake. The Thruneosaurus Rex can use this ability whenever it wants, with the only notable restriction being that it can't use the same ability 2 rounds in a row. I really like this option because players are probably going to expect the Thruneosaurus Rex to have some fire damage options, but the fact that they mixed in a poison version of the effect as well is really cool, and the fact that it changes up from round to round makes this a very easy to use but also adaptable ability that can lead to some very interesting combat encounters. So that's just a bit of a preview of what you can expect if you want to drop a Thruneosaurus Rex into a game as a storyteller. But let's go ahead and finish this video up by answering the inevitable PC statement of, I want one. We all know what's going to happen, so what can you do as a storyteller if you have a player that wants to adopt their very own Thruneosaurus Rex? Now first up, I want to note that as a level 17 creature, the Thruneosaurus Rex is too powerful for a player to learn how to summon via any spell that has the summon trait such as Summon Animal. Simply put, the Thruneosaurus Rex is too powerful, even if you look past the rare trait that this creature has. However, just because a creature is not accessible via normal summoning magic, you do always have the option of ritual magic, meaning that a player could totally try to use a planar servitor ritual in an effect to reach out to a deity, probably Asmodeus, and see if they can get one of these working for them. In order to do this, they would effectively need to increase the level of the ritual up to a 9th level ritual, but assuming that the skill checks go in your PC's favor, they could have their own fire-breathing T-Rex following them around. However, for players and GMs that are willing to be creative, there are a few options that can do a reasonable facsimile as well from lower levels. First up, let's talk about the Summoner and their Eidolon. Diabolical fire-breathing T-Rex sounds like the exact sort of madness that a Summoner would be walking around with, meaning that if you're willing to play with the flavor a little bit, you could totally reflavor an Eidolon to represent a weaker version of a Thruneosaurus Rex. If you wanted to pull this off, the best route is probably the Beast Eidolon for the Summoner, but there's also the Elemental Eidolon option presented in Rage of Elements. You could pick a Fire Elemental Eidolon as well, and both the Beast and Elemental Fire Eidolons, both of those I think could easily be reflavored to fit the aesthetics of a Thruneosaurus Rex. If you decide to go this route, I strongly recommend taking both the hulking and towering size class feats for the Summoner, and I also recommend any Summoner feats that allow you to add energy damage or spell casting to an Eidolon, things such as Energy Heart, Eidolon's Wrath, or any other basic spellcasting feat that would allow your Thruneosaurus Rex Eidolon to spit fire at people. With a little bit of creative reflavoring, your Summoner could be walking around with their own Thruneosaurus Rex to terrify everyone that they meet. However, let's step beyond the Summoner class and talk about animal companions, because there are actually a variety of ways to get animal companions in Pathfinder 2e, and again, with a little bit of reflavoring, you could totally pull off a reasonable facsimile of a Thruneosaurus Rex. Now, when it comes to accessing animal companions, there are a few different options. The Ranger, the Druid, and the Beastmaster archetype are your most direct route, so that's probably the three main paths you would take if you're looking at using an animal companion. But don't forget that some classes, like the Champion, can also pick up an animal companion, and I'm sure that there's more than a few unholy champions that would love to be riding one of these around, so don't overlook those options as well. If you decide to go the animal companion route, I would recommend starting with either the Dromaeosaur companion, or if you have Game Master approval, the Riding Drake companion. Honestly, the Riding Drake is probably the best mechanical fit for what you're going for, because the Riding Drake can very easily unlock a Fire Breath attack, which is on brand with the Thruneosaurus Rex. Your reflavoring in this instance is little more than scratching out the name and writing an alternate title above it. However, you don't have to feel restricted to a Riding Drake if you want an animal companion that has access to fire damage. Your other option is Genie-touched animal companions, which is an alternate rule set from the book Lost Omens Legends. Now again, you will be doing some renaming, reflavoring at the top here, but what this rule set does, anytime you could select the nimble or savage descriptors for an animal companion, you can instead create a Genie-touched companion, which is going to give your companion certain elemental abilities. Then, on down the road, when you get the further option to specialize your companion, you can pick up a specialization called Wildfire Scorcher, which is really going to lean into the dealing fire damage aesthetic of a Thruneosaurus Rex. So, with a little bit of reflavoring, you can take a base dinosaur companion like a Dromaeosaur and add Genie-touched and Wildfire Scorcher down the road, and get a pretty solid approximation of the kind of insanity that a Thruneosaurus Rex could bring to the battlefield. So, if you're a player who sees a Devil Ichor-infused Tyrannosaurus Rex and thinks, I want one, or if you're a Game Master who has such a player, those are just a few options that you could use to replicate such a creature traveling around with one of your players. And with that, we come to the end of Episode 1 of the creature feature, the Thruneosaurus Rex. Be sure to jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you think about this creature. If you're a storyteller and you've actually used a Thruneosaurus Rex, let me know about how that encounter went. And if you're a storyteller who has discovered this creature for the first time, let me know how you plan to drop one of these into your campaign. On the other hand, if you're a player, let me know how your character might approach dealing with a Thruneosaurus Rex rampaging around town. And also let me know if you're one of those players who would definitely see this and say, I want one. No matter what the case, let me know what you think about this new series and what directions you would like to see this series go. And please remember to do all of the other stuff that helps to support this channel. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can check out my free Discord, my Patreon. All of those links will be in the video description below. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. Have a wonderful day.